Welcome to our financial stewardship panel, hosted by Celebration Church and Pastor Matthew Quanu and First Lady Risa Quanu. We thank you so much for joining us this evening, and I am very excited to be the moderator of this panel and to be accompanied by some of my peers in the wealth management financial advisory space. My name is Danica Tokunaga. I am a member of Celebration Church, and I also work as a financial advisor and own a firm by the name of Maven Wealth Management. I've been in the industry for about 20 years, and I'm going to allow my panelists to share a little bit of information about themselves to help you all understand who they are and what we're going to be sharing with you this evening. So we're going to start with Crystal, and then we'll hear from Broderick, and finally we will hear from Kevin Hutt. So Crystal, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Danica. Good evening, everyone. I'm Crystal Alford Cooper, and my husband and I have been members of Celebration Church, I think, since 2000. And I have been in financial planning and wealth management space for 30 plus years. And so serving families and small businesses with retirement planning and education funding and whatever it has to do with financial wellness, that's pretty much what we try to do to help. So that's me.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you. Broderick.
Hey, good evening. My name is Broderick Young. My wife and I have been members of Celebration Church since 2019. We're probably the newbies. I've been in the financial planning, financial services industry for 28 years now. Currently owner of Reveal Wealth, and our goal is to, much like what we're doing today, is just to reveal the strategies and techniques that people have used throughout time to help themselves protect, accumulate, and ultimately distribute wealth. So pleasure to be here and looking forward to having a conversation.
Awesome.
And good evening. My name's Kevin Hutt. Me and my wife Shelly are both deacons at Celebration Church. I've been in the financial services industry for nearly 40 years. So I'm probably one of the most senior advisors on this panel. But delighted to be here, delighted to share with the viewers some ideas about some of the biblical principles of financial stewardship that Pastor Matt shared yesterday. I mean, in many respects, these principles are timeless. They kind of predate us. So,
Yes.
so I'm excited to be here just to share some ideas about kind of the how-to. How do we apply some of these ancient principles that Pastor Matt talked about that were really written for kind of an agrarian society to a techno society today. So I'm just delighted to be here.
Awesome. Thank you all. Thank you very much for those very informative introductions. Now I just want to help the audience understand a little bit about the purpose of our panel and what we're going to be discussing this evening. So yesterday in service, Pastor Matt did an amazing job in discussing wealth, finance, and the stewardship of both our wealth and our finances. So what we're going to be doing today is translating biblical stewardship into practical financial habits that help to strengthen individuals, families, and future generations. And I invite the audience to submit any questions you have. Put your questions in the chat. Anything regarding topics such as investing, college savings, student loans, credit scores, home ownership, estate planning, entrepreneurship, retirement planning, giving, and tithing. Anything that you have that's on your mind that you want to get more information about, I'd be happy to receive those questions. So if you all can just keep those topics on your mind, and as we're speaking, anything that you think of, please enter it in the chat and we'll be happy to discuss that with you. So one of the first things that I would like to do is share with the audience this very powerful graphic that Pastor Matt displayed to us yesterday. And the title of the graphic is The Three Callings. And from his perspective, Pastor Matt sees the evolution of Celebration Church, this phenomenal spiritual center that we have. He sees it as three different callings. The first being the establishment, right? Bishop Robert Stanley Davis Sr. began Celebration Church back in 1973 and served as our overseeing bishop until 2003. And then we moved to the period of excellence, the calling of excellence, whereas Bishop Robert S. Davis Jr. Served for until, 2003 until 2025. And now we're being led as our lead pastor with Pastor Dr. Matthew Quenu. And Pastor Matt really sees his calling for the church as the endowment period. And I'm so excited about that. I had a very nice conversation with Pastor Matt, and he really talked about his vision for the church as God is leading him from excellence to endowment. So we're just happy to be here to talk about some of these principles and to really hone in on Pastor Matt's vision. And we're also going to be talking about a few very important aspects of how we get from excellence to endowment. One of the first things that I wanted to mention is something that Pastor Matt talked about yesterday that I thought was very poignant, and that is the fact that there are, primarily 4 things that Christians should be doing with our money, right? The 4 things that we should be doing with our money. It's so profound. Number 1 is we should be gathering money, right? Our job.
Looks like we might have lost Anika.
We've lost a little bit,
Yeah.
Danica.
Thing that Christians should earth with their money is to grow the money. And yes, it is okay to invest and grow your money. It's actually biblical to grow your money, as Pastor Matt advised us yesterday. And then number 4.
Yeah, I'm not sure if she knows that
Yeah.
that she is frozen, but we'll let her know when she's back.
Okay.
Because we know it was gather money, right? Where Pastor Matt talked about diligence is not greed, laziness is not humility.
Right.
The second one was giving money,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And growing money, which we heard Danica mention.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, are you back? Danica, can you hear
Yes.
us?
Yes,
I don't know if
can
you
hear
know, but you actually went away.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that. I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crystal was quick in
So
assuming the co-anchor role.
yeah, so we went over gathering money, we went over giving money, and can you pick back up on the grow money
Growing
piece?
money.
Growing money. Can you go back to that? Oh, something's going on.
Okay.
Okay, everybody, that's all right. The devil's busy, but we don't mind. Obviously growing money when Pastor Matt spoke about the examples of when stewards were put in charge of money and how they thought they were doing the right thing by burying it, right? And keeping it safe, but no, the money can grow.
Yeah.
God never called fearfulness faithfulness. I loved when he spoke about that yesterday.
Yeah.
And then leaving the legacy behind. So that was the 4th part. Go to glory, leaving the legacy behind. And he talked about, we'll either spend it or we'll leave it. Either way, it's gone. We're not taking it with us.
That's right.
So,
And okay, are you all? Am I back?
you are, yes.
back.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so we're going to talk about a biblical theology of money. We're going to spend a few minutes talking about a biblical theology of money. So Psalm 24:1, as we were discussing yesterday during the sermon, is that the earth is the Lord's and everything in it, right? So as we keep that in mind, let's think about this. Pastor Matt has already reminded us that everything belongs to God.
Mhm.
So how does embracing that truth practically change the way we earn, spend, save, invest, and give? And either of you can just jump in. We just want to know, like, because we know that everything belongs to God, how does that change the way we handle money? How does that change our relationship with money?
I think it's a mind shift. It shifts you from the concept of ownership to stewardship.
Hmm.
And Crystal mentioned a few things. We don't think of growing your assets as stewardship.
Yeah.
We don't think of investing as stewardship. Uh, Typically, we think of putting it under your mattress as stewardship. Uh, but I think God has provided everything, the resources, the ability to get wealth. He's given us the talents, and He's empowered us, the people of God, to really make an impact, to have a difference. But to do that, we have to be good stewards. We have to make good money decisions about spending. We have to invest. We have to save. We have to manage debt so that
Yeah.
we have that capacity to really have an impact.
Yeah. Um, in your experience, what is the greatest obstacle that prevents people from becoming the best or most faithful stewards of their money? Broderick, would you step in and share with us, please?
I would say it's a spirit of fear, a
Mhm.
spirit of lack.
Yep. Mhm.
If I give this here, then I'm not going to have that there, which kind of goes back to the thought process of it's all God's anyway, and just being a
Mhm.
good steward. I think um, the biblical principles, I often bring things back to the tithe, right? And it's just good behavior, but it's also good wealth behavior.
Mhm.
If you're given a tenth, I
Mhm.
articulate to people a lot. If you talk to Christians and you ask them whose image they're created in, they'll tell you they're created in God's image. And so if God wants to tithe and you're created in that image, it's probably a good idea for you to tithe to yourself, to
Yeah.
start there. But the tithe is also your time and your talent. So how much time are you actually spending cultivating the things that you're talented at in order for you to duplicate or multiply those talents so that it increases your revenue, and it's kind of circular. So I
Yeah.
think fear, and Second Timothy 7, we don't operate from a spirit of fear if you're in the faith, but that fear is what really prevents people from, I think, saving, investing, tithing. Fear is behind all of that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was really surprised yesterday when Pastor Matt shared with us that only 30 to 40% of the church actually tithes. So
Mhm.
that means that the majority, 60 to 70% of the church does not tithe at all.
Mhm.
So that's kind of shocking, and it's a little bit unfortunate. So I'm hoping that we can share some insight tonight to help people maybe have a shift in their mindset. You know, he provided us yesterday with the scripture, 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 6. And I think we all are very familiar with the scripture.
Mhm.
And it says, remember this, whosoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
whosoever sows generously will also reap generously. So
Mhm.
oftentimes, we as Christians may want to reap more than what we sow as it relates to
Sure.
our giving and our financial stewardship, especially as we get into the house of the Lord. So hopefully, that 30-40% of Christians who tithe, that number will increase.
I
Yeah.
think
Good
from
point.
a practical perspective is that whole giving cheerfully part.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, you know, if you, and there's all debates, is it 10% of this, 10% of that, blah, blah, blah. Let's start with just the cheerful and disciplined giving,
Mhm.
because 10% for one person might not, it means much of nothing to them,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Mhm.
They
Right.
may, cheerfully be able to give more, whereas 5% to somebody else is them diligently doing what they can. I think it's to starting the habit. I don't know if they could correlate that to, I'm wondering the people who, that 30% that are tithing, what their saving looks like versus the people that aren't, versus, are there other behaviors around investing and saving that correlate with those things? I'd love to see that study.
Well, it's a
Yeah.
challenge,
And
and
actually,
you hit it. That is fear. I mean, that's why in Malachi, God says, "Test me,"
Yes.
because the human condition is one of fear. So He says, "Try it, test me, and see what I pour out." So He knows us better than we know ourselves.
Right. That's right.
But I like what you're saying, Brother, is we can get gradual at that testing. Just
Mhm.
start.
Just start.
Start
Yeah.
somewhere.
Start
Yes.
somewhere.
And I
and
think
then
we
grow.
all would agree. We tell our clients with saving and invest, let's start,
Just
right?
start.
Yeah.
They're getting ready, trying to have the perfect plan.
Yeah.
Let's just start.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And that actually leads us into section 2, which is budgeting, debt, saving, and financial discipline. So, we're all financial advisors, and we've all probably been doing this work for at least 20 years, if not more. I think one of the things that I find that people oftentimes have trouble with, even the ultra high net worth, is budgeting, right? Because it seems like the more people make, the more they spend. And when we consider budget frameworks, oftentimes people look at a 40, 30, 20, 10, right?
Mhm.
So they're oftentimes looking at the needs being 40% of the budget, the wants getting 30% of the budget, savings getting 20% of the budget, and then maybe investing getting another 10%. But I think that especially for Christians and people who want to be good stewards of what God is giving them, I think there should be an additional 10%. So maybe 30, 20, 20, 10, 10, right? That 10% for tithing should be considered as part of the budget. And I think when you include just a 10% tithe in your budgeting framework, you are more conditioned to giving the tithe on a regular basis, regardless to whether you pay it once annually or monthly or however you pay your tithe. If a part of your framework is including 10% for budgeting, I think people are going to be more prone to making their contribution. And so Proverbs 21:5 says, the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, right? And that's going to take us into our discussion questions. One of my questions for you all, and either of you can jump in because I think um, we're all more than qualified to answer this particular question, but is a written budget essential for financial health, or are there alternatives? Just in your practices and in your everyday lives, do
Mhm.
you all recommend a written budget for clients or for your family members, or do you think that there are alternatives that may also help to suit that need?
Yeah, well, I know I can jump in. I definitely think that a written budget doesn't have to be necessary, but you do have to know where your money is going.
Yeah.
So, however you want to track that, be it electronically, be it if you can remember it in your mind or whatever, which most people can't, but but doing something, and then it's almost like psyching yourself out a little bit because you don't really. For one thing, don't call it a budget. Some people can't get over that hurdle.
Mhm.
So call it, your spending plan or, my road to retirement plan, call it whatever you want to call it. Something as little as that can help you. And
Yeah.
also, when we're talking about knowing where your money's going versus trying to figure out where it went, right? That's a big thing. And most of us are too busy trying to figure out what happened to our money versus making plans for where it's going to go and being realistic about what is that discretionary amount, because we know what the bills are. We know what our utility is. We know what our rent or our mortgage payment, our car payment, we know that, and we know how much we make.
Yes.
So even if you're not a big numbers person, if I can get it to a point where we're identifying this one bucket of dollars and understanding that this is really the pool that you have to work with, because everything else is already accounted for, including
Yeah.
taxes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm so happy that Pastor Matt has us on this financial stewardship panel, because one of the things he mentioned is that, sometimes our money may be funny and our change may be strange. When I heard him say that, I said, oh, that was amazing.
You got too much month for your money.
Right,
Yes.
right, right. So
Yeah.
then that takes us into our next question. What is a healthy framework for saving and emergency reserves, right? And how should Christians evaluate and manage their debt wisely?
A couple of, I think, rules of thumb. One is called kind of we all heard the 369 plan, which is, should I save 3 months worth of living expenses, 6 or 9? Some of that depends on kind of your position, your job, what kind of work you do. There are a number of things that should factor into that. I would say have an emergency fund, period. And I always say one important thing is to distinguish emergencies from wants. Okay, the sale on Macy's is not an emergency.
Nope.
That's a
right.
want. And then I find sometimes, Danica, having a systematic plan. I think Broderick and Crystal pointed us out. When you do that budget, part of that budget should be a line item to save to emergency funds.
Mhm.
Even if it's $50 a month or $100 a month, to go to the emergency fund to start to build that up.
Yeah.
I would
And make it not as accessible. That
get it
don't have
someplace
that
where you
fund in your
can't
checking
get it.
account.
Right. Get it someplace where you can't get it. And I like what Crystal said,
Yeah.
spending, I say spending plans,
Mhm.
because like you said, budgets are bad words. Nobody wants, well, I got to tell them what to do with my money. Okay. So every dollar needs to have an assignment.
Yeah.
And the more you can get your money working for you, the better you are going to be financially. So this also comes down to looking at the debt, the savings that you have, emergency fund. Your emergency fund should not be based on a credit card that's 29%,
Mhm.
right? Because now you done charged it to 20. It takes you forever to pay it. So you need to have something there that can handle those emergencies. But when you're going through your cash flow statements, looking at where your money's going, if you can get your money in places that are working for you before you're putting it in places that work against you,
Mhm.
you are going to be better off in the long run. And that's how I try to help people, Christians, understand debt. When you're looking at debt, I hate the good debt, bad debt situation. No debt is great, right? But in this society, we do have the time borrow some debt. But if you are using debt to purchase something that is going to appreciate in value or add more money, cash flow to your bottom line, that's something that you can enter into with some type of confidence and diligence.
Mhm.
If you are using debt to finance something that immediately depreciates in value and becomes worthless over time,
Mhm.
think twice about that.
Yeah.
And you point out something, Broderick. Again, I like your term, cash flow statement. Crystal said, you call it whatever you want.
Whatever.
You don't develop wealth haphazardly.
Mhm.
If you don't have a plan to grow, I call it a wealth accumulation plan. I talk to my clients, look, that's not wishy-washy. The goal is to build your wealth. That's the goal. That's my goal. So consequently, we're setting out a plan, a cash flow statement, a budget to achieve that. Uh, Part of that is, as you mentioned, Broderick, certainly managing debt. Um, and as Crystal mentioned, committing that to some kind of plan of action.
Kevin reminded me, we all know what people need to know. Wealth is not a one-time event.
Mhm.
It's not something that just happens. I do this one time and then wealth is a series of decisions being made on a daily basis,
Yep.
consistently over time.
Yes.
Most people don't know the average age of
Yeah.
a millionaire, I think it's between 60 and 62 years old. So, contrary to what you're seeing on Instagram, most of them people are not millionaires, right?
Right.
Okay, so it takes time
Yeah.
and decisions over time
Yes.
to help accumulate that. Now, the sooner you start, the quicker you can get there. But you can't.
Mhm.
Don't stop. Consistently
Mhm.
doing it helps you out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
And just for the
to add to that, it's been for years, we've been saying this, but it really is true. You don't have to make a lot of money to
That's true.
save and build wealth,
Yes.
because
So
it's
true.
not what
So
you
true.
make, it's what you do with what you make.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you start, like Broderick, like we're saying, if you start early and you're consistent and diligent, and then, when you start talking about compounding interest in wealth,
Yes.
right, and investment and appreciation and the growth of what you're doing, it is amazing what you can do when you don't. So don't think that you have to have a ton of money in
Mhm.
order to get started. You just have
Yeah.
to get started.
And for the record, I actually like the term budgeting. I I like it. I like it. My people budget, I like it. I do my little budget every month. I like budgeting. It's fun. I love it. Okay, so how can couples and families build unity and accountability around money? Money in a relationship can sometimes be one of the biggest problems, one of the biggest hurdles in a relationship, right?
Yeah.
So what are some useful tips or suggestions that we can provide for couples or people who may be dating and are trying to figure out how to manage their finances, how to have those discussions about money so that it's not awkward? What are some tips that you all can offer?
I don't know if it's biblical, but I'll tell you, believe what you're seeing. It's not going
Okay.
to get better once you say I do.
Okay.
So if that person is spendthrift when you dating, if they're reckless with money while you dating, if it's not matching up while you dating, don't think saying I do is going to change that up.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
believe what you're seeing and
You
have
have
the
to
tough conversation.
have it.
Because I think everyone knows this, the majority of couples marriages separate over money.
Right.
So don't be
Yeah.
afraid to have that tough conversation and
Yeah.
know what your significant other, spouse, mate, know where their values are. Right. And if your values aren't aligned around what's important about money,
Yeah.
it's okay if you're a person that prefers to have money versus the person that wants to make everybody think they have money, because they're two different people.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You need to know that up front, and it's okay for that other person, but just know
Yeah.
that that's not going to be most beneficial for you moving forward.
Yes.
And
Then you
Broderick,
have, go
because you
ahead.
mentioned values, I believe that it is very important that you're on one accord, and
Mhm.
with the person that you are preparing to share your life with, especially as it relates to tithing, because not everyone believes in tithing, right? And some people don't think that they should give to the church. Some people think that they should be a member of the church and attend the services and reap the benefits. And as Pastor Matt refers to, have that membership card, right?
Amen.
But not pay the tithe, right? And the church has a mission. The church has a purpose. The church has bills, right? And so, in order to continue to further the mission of the ministry and to get us from excellence to endowment, we have to tithe. We have to give. We can't just go there for services and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all shaking our head and saying amen to that, right?
Amen. Yes.
Yes, we agree. One of the things I think is important too is for couples, singles, anybody, is to get help. So, we come from, where parents didn't even talk about money. Nobody knew anything,
Yep.
until a person died. And then you find out, they had a lot of money or they had no money.
Right.
But, get help in helping to get started and helping to see what, talk to other couples that have been through certain things when it comes to finances, and hopefully by learning from their stories that it can help can help us not have to go through something a certain way. So I think, getting rid of whatever shame or embarrassment, because money is very, very personal, very, more so I think than sex. People will talk about sex before they'll talk about money. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But by it being so personal, it's like we need to. She's back.
I'm back. See, that's nothing but the enemy trying to cut me off as I'm talking about tithing to the church.
I know. That's okay. We still stressed it.
Good. Thank you.
But yes, but I was just sharing that I think getting help and getting getting advice from other people that have had similar situations and things like that too, and being vulnerable and exposing ourselves for what we don't know, right? Because
vulnerability is important.
Yeah,
because you can't help a person if you don't know what's going on.
Absolutely.
And I like your concepts of use getting help, because sometimes you just need an objective viewpoint.
Mhm.
Yep.
You have two people that have idiosyncrasies about money and thought processes. And hey, let's meet with someone who can just call a spade a spade,
Mhm.
pitch the ball right down the middle, and you walk away both enriched by it.
And I'm sure we've all counseled people that have a common goal, but they have two different thought processes on how to get there. And neither one of them is necessarily wrong,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It's just based on some people's preferences, and being able to help people flush out and understand that, hey, your spouse isn't wrong because they want to do it this way, and they're not, but you all both want to get here. Okay, here are the ways we can make this happen.
Yes.
And so it gets real. We've all done it. You got some spouses that do stuff together. You got some that have a family account. They own two separate accounts. And you got some that they not talking, but they know where they want to be, and everybody working towards, and they meet once a year to make sure everybody holding the end of the bargain. So
Right.
there's multiple ways to do it. But I think the key is the transparency, the communication. And you also have to be able to communicate what your baggage with money is. You have some people that come into relationships and, it was harder on them, the scarcity mindset, and it's a legit from where they came from, what their situation. And you got others that come in and, to them, money's like water. It's going to rain. There'll be some more, so you got to know what people are coming in there with so you can help guide them appropriately.
And I think having regular meetings are helpful.
Yes.
Regular building that into just the interaction with each other. Regular meetings. I'm recapping you guys, right? Open communications, and then share goal setting.
We call that the business of marriage.
It's not uncommon that two people planning for retirement, and when they get there, each of them had a different idea of what they were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think sitting down and having those shared goal settings, those regular meetings, and that open communication, I think goes a long way.
Did you call it? You said the business of marriage.
The business of marriage. So again, all of us run businesses. It'd be crazy for us to start in January and not look at the business again until December. Right? Now, where we are, so, the business of marriage. Are you meeting with your significant other quarterly? So you ought to have those business conversations. Did we hit our savings goal? Are we hitting our investing goal? Do you still feel the same about what you said in January that we wanted to do in October? Or if things kind of change, do we need to adjust? If you're checking in, because I know we've all seen it all too often, people spend too much time not checking in with one another. And like you said, Kevin, then you get to that retirement, it's like, well, I want to live over here in California. I thought we was going to Florida. Whoa.
That's right.
Okay, so let's shift our focus to investing, entrepreneurship, and building generational wealth, right? Because a lot of people talk about generational wealth, and I'm not even sure who coined the phrase, but it's probably one of the most popular phrases that we hear on social media and all, just everywhere. Generational wealth, multi-generational wealth, right? One of the scriptures that Pastor Matt provided to us yesterday was Proverbs 13:22. A good person leaves an inheritance to their children's children, but a sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. right? That's Proverbs 13 and 22. A good person leaves an inheritance to their children's children. So my first question is, what does true generational wealth mean beyond money?
I think it's also preparing that next generation to know what to do with the money, right? Putting them in a position where they can be good stewards over whatever is left. I'm a big proponent that at least I don't argue with those that say I'm not going to leave them nothing. I say, great, let's figure out what that's going to cost. Because all of us have known people that have left bills, confusion, and debt. So if you don't want to leave nothing, let's figure that out. How much outstanding debt do you have? Do you want to be burned up or you want a mausoleum? Because that's going to cost something. And you don't look like you're the healthiest, so it's probably going to be some medical bills. We might need something there for that. Is there mortgage debt? So there's a cost to leave nothing if that's what you want to do. And specifically in communities of color, if we just left nothing, a lot of people would be better off to move forward. So helping people understand that, positioning that next generation to take the foundation. Pastor Matt did it on Sunday. You on those shoulders. How do you make sure the next generation is even higher up next? And that comes with preparation, education, and helping them understand the responsibilities of moving forward with whatever is left.
With whatever,
And
one of the things that I've seen that I think that beyond money, it helps with your faith, your purpose. It helps people feel like they can flourish more, right? They're more confident. They are, maybe even healthier, because we know that for Black and brown folks, a lot of the health issues that we have is it can be attributed to our financial status, right? So it's interesting, because beyond the money part of it, because for right now it seems like our generation, for our community of folks, we are starting to see where we're starting to inherit, right? But unlike mainstream, right now, when we're inheriting, we have to pay bills, right? Somebody leaves us money and we're like, oh my gosh, I can pay off this debt. Versus it's going to be nice when we get to the point where we have that real wealth accumulation, where we inherit and we can invest that, right? And it can help. And so I think that beyond the money part of it, again, it's more of the emotional and more of the lifestyle of what it can do, what it can bring. When I think about all the lives that were lost during the pandemic, in my mind, I'm thinking, how many of those people were insured, right? Imagine how they could have set their families up with
one
them,
of the things,
no longer being here. But if they had that insurance, things would be different.
One of the things that I like to tell people, especially when they are reluctant to invest and plan for retirement and save their money and engage in estate planning, is you need to be leaving wills, not bills, right? Because oftentimes in our communities, people are leaving bills and not wills, and we want to kind of like shift that paradigm and get some, Pastor Matt also referenced the estate planning segments that we've had, and I believe he's going to resume and do that again. But we want to get people in the mindset of leaving wills and not bills.
And estate planning is not just for rich people.
Yes.
That's right.
It's not just, it's for everybody.
And it's not just for dying. It's for living.
And having wills, or having a will, or estate planning, trust services, is also a way that we go from excellence to endowment, because we want to make it more common. Pastor Matt referenced this, the endowment. I think he referenced at Yale or
Princeton.
Princeton at where he attended Princeton. But the endowment is significant. The endowment is significant. But why is that, right? we're trying to also establish an endowment similar to that at Celebration Church. Whereas we're going from excellence to endowment. And how do we do that? With people doing estate planning and getting those services in place and having a will, having a trust, and bequeathing money to their family and also to their church or their religious institution, so that we can further the mission at Celebration Church to continue the work that has been started.
The nice thing about what you said is, again, it's a how-to. You read the scripture, a good person leaves an inheritance. Well, how do you do that? It's nice, and it's through these estate planning. And I just also want to add, one of the assets I think that we should be passing on is also intangible. We need to be passing on knowledge to our family. We need to be passing on values. They need to know our history, because, you guys probably know this, 70% of wealth is lost in the second generation.
90% by the third.
90 by the third. So we have to pass on not just the money, but we have to pass on the knowledge, the values. A lot of times, when I'm talking to clients, the conversation I'm having is, okay, if something happens to you, who's your family going to talk to? So again, two things need to be passed on: the assets, wealth, and the knowledge and the values. The history is so important, because the history just lets you know from what you've come.
That's right.
And absent of that, I think it's just hard to really appreciate legacy.
I have a question that I think, a lot of people, at some point in their lives, this is something that crosses their mind. When and how should individuals begin investing? And then also, too, what are some of the common mistakes that new investors make? So when you're a new investor, when should you start? And then what are some of the common mistakes or pitfalls that we should try to avoid, or people should try to avoid as new investors?
ASAP.
I think we all would agree you should start investing yesterday. Like yesterday.
So let's say for example, you're a young person, maybe you're 20, 21, 27 years old, and you're just getting started in life. And, let's be real. Oftentimes, especially with the way prices are and the cost of living, as expensive as that is, and they're not making a whole lot of money.
Give me one brunch a month.
That's it.
Give me one brunch a month. We can say they ain't brunching. The brunch spots are packed, right?
Yeah.
Give me one brunch a month for your future self.
Yes.
And I'll go back to your favorite word, Danica, budget. You have to budget to save.
If you have a 401k, let's start there.
Budget.
Take the match.
Are you leaving free money on the table? If
that's right.
I say start earlier than that, because when my friends, when their teenagers start mowing lawns, and believe it or not, people do still mow lawns or shoveling snow or whatever. Hey, can we do a Roth IRA?
You're a sole proprietor. Let's start a Roth.
Right? Can we do that?
Got it.
So I'll give you an acronym for investing and growing wealth. It's called PIT. P-I-T. Principal, interest, and time. Those three things grow wealth. Now, they all have an inverse relationship. The more you have of one, the less you need of the other. The more principal I have for saving, I don't need as much interest on it to reach my goal.
Got it. Well,
The more
thank you, Kevin.
time
Thank
I
you for that.
have, the less I need of the others. So time is just a critical factor.
I like it.
And the biggest pitfall, in my opinion, my colleagues, please correct me if I'm wrong, is interrupting that time. So you start, and then somewhere along the line, you take it out. We've all seen the client that I got a client, I talk to him all the time. It took him 20 years to save $500,000. It's taken 6 for him to double it. So it took 20 to get to $500,000, 6 to go to $1 million. But he never interrupted it.
Yeah. And I would say, for as far as, some of the mistakes we may make, and we've all done it, like like when Bishop and Pastor Matt say, you know, we're preaching to the one, this one too, right? But you know, some people trying to get rich quick.
Yes.
So it's not about that.
Yes.
If you start out like that, you're not going to make it. Waiting for the perfect time not trying to time things. That's not good either.
Right.
Another thing is being letting like your emotions get to you, especially when you start investing. If you have sound principles about what you're investing in, and again, if you have somebody professionally helping you choose what you're investing in, is important as well. And so, you know, not letting those emotions get to you when you start hearing all the noise about things.
Okay, well, thank you, Crystal. How should Christians think about entrepreneurship and wealth creation?
Well, everybody's not cut out
in
for
the
it.
church.
Okay.
Say that louder for the people.
Everybody's
in the back,
not
Kevin.
cut out for it.
There's nothing wrong with a job.
You know,
Like we've almost in our culture
sometimes you need
demonized jobs.
Sometimes you need to be entrepreneurial, which is, hey, I've got a great job. I'm doing well. I'm getting the 401k Crystal mentioned. I'm getting a match. I'm getting restricted stock, etc. So sometimes that may be opportunistic for you. Entrepreneurship is another way to grow wealth. Of course, if you have a skill set that's marketable, sometimes the opportune time to consider entrepreneurship is when there's been a job separation, and you don't have a lot to risk at that point. If you're working, it may be a good idea to start that. My brother has a saying: side hustle on the side while you're working, to help get the business off and running, and then make a move if necessary.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
You see, I kind of held back because I haven't, because that's what I have a job. So I don't have my own practice. I've always been part of a practice in a team. And so yes. So
I would just encourage people, you know, don't quit the main thing trying to create something that you're wondering about. Like Kevin said, if you have an entrepreneur, do you have a plan?
Yeah.
Right? Do you have a business plan? Have you tested the market space? You may think everybody wants what it is that you're doing, but have you asked anybody else? Right?
Yeah.
Are you seeing a demand for what it is that you're doing? Can you run a pilot? Let's start small, see if it gets traction. And if it grows to a point where you can see an exit, because there's always some risk there, you go ahead and exit, but do it strategically. I have to paraphrase, but somewhere in Proverbs to tell you, if you're moving too hastily, you're going to have some problems, right? But if you're doing it diligently, you know, you have a much higher portion for success. So entrepreneurship isn't for everyone, but, you know, do it right.
Thank you.
That's good.
In the interest of time, I'm going to shift us to our next section, our next and final section, so that we can get through these next few questions before we go to some of the audience questions. So this is one of the sections that is to my heart: generosity, legacy, and kingdom stewardship. So we're going to talk about that for a few minutes. Whosoever sows generously will also reap generously. And that's not my word. That's coming from 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse, right? How does generosity shape both your spiritual and financial health? Right? Do you all agree? Because I'm a huge proponent in believing that generosity absolutely shapes both your spiritual and your financial health. Do you all agree?
Yes. And your physical health.
Yeah.
There's scientific work on that.
Absolutely. Can you all think of any ways, and just really quickly, if you can, in maybe 15 seconds, share an example of how generosity has helped to shape your spiritual and financial health?
When we opened up our firm and I quit my day job, the first thing I told my wife to do was schedule our tithes. And to be honest, that was the first time in my adult life where I'd ever scheduled tithing, purposefully began tithing. and it
Mhm.
was regardless. And that was January of 2020. So
Awesome.
by March 8th of 2020, when the world shut down, yeah, I was looking at some things. Hey, man, the Lord don't necessarily need my money. He'll be all right. But it's a hectic out here in these streets. But I didn't stop it. I kept going.
Yeah.
And through that faithfulness, through that giving, never missed a beat.
Yeah, I think it deepens your sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to connect to something with a larger meaning than yourself. I think it helps to kind of reduce attachment. I mean, so I think those things, and then I think in the end also cultivates gratitude.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what is done for me.
Mhm.
And
One of
definitely
the
also,
things
I
that I
think,
would like to
increases your
share is
faith.
that, yeah, one of the things that I would like to share is that when I was younger, in my early 20s, I grew up in Baltimore City, and the circumstances were nowhere near what you all would probably imagine living out here in the beautiful, illustrious Howard County. Um,
I'm from Baltimore, Danica, East
okay,
Side.
okay, yeah, yes. Um, and times were really hard. And I remember, going to church, and this may not sound sensible, it may not sound logical, but I just remember the Spirit of God telling me to give your way out, give your way through. And I started tithing. I was a young 20-something-year-old and started tithing and giving an offering of a substantial amount of money. Substantial amount of money. And I said, okay, this is crazy. What am I doing here? But what I can say is, if you have the faith the size of a mustard seed, I trusted God, right? And I know we're not supposed to test God, but I was like, let me just try this thing out. And I started tithing, and I started going above the 10% tithe and giving in the offering significant amounts of money. And
Beautiful.
when I tell you that God supernaturally blessed my life, and I believe that I'm
Beautiful.
still reaping the benefits of that. So
Beautiful.
I'm sharing that because I want to say, I know that for some people, sometimes it seems like some people don't want to tithe, right? Some people don't think that it's necessary. Some people may feel like, okay, the rest of the people in the church, they're tithing, they're paying for everything, they got it, I don't have it, right? No, we need your tithe, we need your contribution. God wants your contribution. He wants you to be cheerful about your contribution. And when you do that, when you exercise discipline and also obedience, it's the obedience to God's word about giving and tithing and financial stewardship, He will bless you beyond measure. So I
Yes.
know it may
Yes.
not, it may not
Yes.
seem like it makes sense, especially when your money is funny and your change may be strange, as Pastor Matt says. But if you trust God and give Him back some of what He gave to you, He will bless you abundantly and supernaturally.
Absolutely.
So another question that I would like to pose to you all is, can someone be financially successful without being materialistic? Are all financially successful people materialistic?
No,
Yes. Yes.
no, they're not. Yeah, they're not all materialistic.
Right.
Correct.
I think it's if you make it that way,
Yeah.
right? If you make it that way, then yeah, you'll be materialistic. But
Yeah. I think if you focus, I mean, if you shift your focus to really financial freedom, which is what you want,
Yeah.
uh, security, um, those kinds of things, those aren't materialistic things. A car won't give you financial freedom. A car won't give you peace of mind. Uh, so I think you can be if now to Crystal's point, how do you define financial success?
Mhm.
I like to find it as wellness, wholeness,
Got it.
peace of
Got it.
mind, the ability to bless Celebration Church, family, and friends.
Got it.
And I
Kevin, I
don't
think you
think you
hit it
need
on
to
the
be.
point when you said peace of mind.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah. Hold that thought for me, guys. I want to slide this in here because I really want to hear your thought on one of the questions that we have before us. What does faithful stewardship look like after achieving financial stability? So once you achieve financial stability and you're no longer surviving, you're now thriving.
Mm-hmm.
You're thriving
Mm-hmm.
financially. What does faithful stewardship look like? And especially from the perspective of a believer, right?
Mhm.
And a member of a congregation. What should that look like? What does that mean for us?
In my opinion, once you are there, it's helping somebody else in some capacity get there.
Yes.
And how do we do that? How do we do that?
We all have different things that we enjoy doing. So just this Sunday, Pastor Matt announced that they're getting ready to start the agrarian
Mhm.
small group. And I immediately texted my wife and said, hey, we about to learn how to go grow some vegetables,
Mhm.
right? Because I want to
Mhm.
learn how to do that, because that's something that we could also do at our home, which produces more food for people that don't have food, right? So if we can help
Right.
everybody there's more than enough need out here in this world, right? In
That's
ways, I know even at the church, when we had the office in the church, some people would come in and they needed their light bills paid. The church is there, benevolence is there, and we would help pay people's light bills. And there's more than enough
That's
ways
right.
when you got to that point where you are, where you can help other people get there too.
Yeah.
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 And I think it also
when we-
helps you once you're successful, so to speak, whatever you define as success, but it helps you to use money, as a tool and help other people's learn how to use it as a tool versus using it as it's your identity, right? Money's not your identity. The love of money. So the Bible doesn't say we shouldn't have money. It says, there's a problem with the love of money. So
Got it.
staying diligent about that. I think Kevin said, being grateful, staying diligent about to me, that's a gift that the Lord has given you. And not ever forgetting that,
Yes.
right? Because it's bigger than me. It's not about. The one thing I wish I could explain to people, and I've never been able to explain it, is how you can do much more with your 90% than you ever could with your 100%. I've never been able to explain that, but because it just it just happens, right? You're like, I can do, when you're tithing, you can do so much more with what you've kept than when you had all the money. It's just, can't explain it. You just have to experience it for yourself.
And that leads us to our next question. How should believers balance giving, saving, investing, and also enjoying life, right? Because once you get your pot of money every 2 weeks, every week, monthly, however often you get paid, right? How do you balance it? And the way I recommend that people balance it is by having that budget. If you're doing that 40, 30, 20, 10, making sure that 40% goes to your needs, 30% goes to your wants, 20% goes to saving and investing, and then 10% is for giving, right? 10% is your giving contribution. So I think the best way to balance giving, saving, investing, and enjoying life is by budgeting, is by making sure that we understand where the money is going, and we're making sure that all the bills get paid, and the bills not only being your mortgage and your light bill and your food bill, but also, in some religions, you have to pay an annual fee to go into the house of worship, right? Fortunately, we don't do that at our church, right? We're allowed and entrusted to give of what we receive. But I think that when we have a budget and there's an allocation for all of our quote unquote bills or our expenses, that's a great way for us to balance those different aspects of our financial responsibilities.
Yeah.
So we have just a minute or
Danica,
so
I want to
left.
say really quick on that. Part of enjoying your life, when you find enjoyment in your life out of giving, saving, and investing, that is enjoying life to you. And it's amazing how everything else begins to work out when you enjoy giving, saving, investing, when you find enjoyment in that.
Yes, that's right. And so I'm taking a look at the chat right now, and I see, oh yeah. So Pastor Matt said, use money as a tool, not your identity.
That's right.
And that's actually a good follow-up to that question that we asked about, when people become financially stable or financially savvy or financially endowed, how not to
Yes.
Mhm.
become a different person,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
Excellent.
And yeah, and one of the things that we're reminded of, Pastor Matt's on fire. People pay a lot of money for this priceless information that we're giving out, right? Celebration Church is blessed beyond measure to have each one of you as members to be able to provide these financial tools about stewardship and how to better manage your money and how to be blessed as we manage our money.
Yes.
Let's see, do we have any questions here? I am looking for questions. All right. All right. So here's a question. We maybe we can do a few questions. I know we are just about out of time. Let me see if we can get 2 questions in. All right. Someone says, I have a 401k and just opened a high yield account. What else should I look into?
I think that's hard for all of us to
Yeah.
answer without knowing more.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I would say the question back would be, are you maximizing your 401k contributions? Are you putting in the total amount that you're allowed to put in every year? That would be, and then if you have a high yield savings account, then you might want to start investing outside of the retirement plan account.
If you've reached what
Yes.
your emergency savings plan goal is. And one of the things you all can do
Yes.
is ask yourself over your adult life, what's been the largest emergency financially you've ever had to deal with, right? And I like to argue that the older we get, generally, the smarter and more reserved we get. So if at some point $10,000 was the biggest expense you've ever had, and you got $15,000 in your savings emergency fund, now you can probably start deploying some money someplace else to make it work harder for you.
Yep.
Because you got a solid emergency fund there. So
Got it. And I do see that there's a question in there asking about the 4 principles regarding what Christians should do with their money. So I'm just going to provide these really quickly and then give our closing thought because I want to be respectful of the time that we've been allowed. So as Pastor Matt instructed us, the 4 things that Christians should be doing with their money. Number 1 is gathering money or earning and acquiring money, right? That's number 1. Number 2 is give money. So we've got gather money as number 1, give money is number 2, number 3 is grow your money, right, by investing, and number 4 is go to glory, leaving a legacy of money behind, right? So we don't want to take it with us. We don't want to try and hold on to it. We want to give. We want to leave a legacy. We want to be good stewards of our money. So our closing thought for this evening is that biblical stewardship is not merely about accumulating wealth. It is about faithfully managing everything that God has entrusted to us for his glory, our families flourishing, and the blessing of future generations. So that is our closing thought for this evening. And I thank you all for participating on this panel on behalf of our beloved Celebration Church and our pastor, Dr. Matthew Quainu, and First Lady Risa Quainu. Thank you all for this amazing information. Thank you for your time. And I look forward to continuing these conversations with you all.
Thank you.